They say music feeds the soul and food feeds the heart. So please join us for season 2 of Brunch with a Black Man, where we sit down with Black men from across the world who talk about their experiences with mental health, mental wellness, and how they are taking on their own mental health journey. We sit down over brunch to break it down. Make sure you join us for season 2 of Brunch with a Black Man. All right, and welcome to another edition of Brunch with the Black Man. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by founder of One Nation Mentor, Kevin McNair. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Well, can't complain. How about yourself?
Doing good. I'm so excited and thankful for you stopping by.
No
I know
worries.
you got a lot of stuff in the community, saving the kids. But before we get to that, I just want to learn a little more about you.
Okay, cool.
Where you came from, what brought you to Pittsburgh. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. So can you talk a little bit of how you grew up, where you grew up, and what your childhood was like?
Yeah. So I was born in New York, but I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm from Charlotte. It was amazing. I had a normal childhood, but the older I got, I started having some different issues trying to figure out how I was supposed to be the man that I became today. Mm-hmm. And in my community, they started knocking houses down. So myself moved to another neighborhood, and then I feel like myself and my friend kind of like raised each other. We didn't have any male mentors, any positive male role models, which kind of got me in the space I am now. I feel like I made a lot of mistakes growing up. I feel like if I had more positive males around me, I could have had a different outcome, but I'm blessed because it led me in the road I am today. So, I can't complain. Everybody had issues, but I was blessed to be able to make it through the ones I had to where I am at now.
And you talk about, moving. I think a lot of times when you're young, your whole world is like your neighborhood.
Right,
the people
right.
you're on your blocks, the people you see every day. And gentrification happens, your neighborhood gets destroyed. What was that process like for you to get that, we're going to move somewhere else?
Yeah, it was different. It was nerve-wracking because, like you said, as a young person, you really never want to move or leave your friends, right? And then to go somewhere where you're not familiar with anybody and starting over, which never is a welcoming place. But I had to really just get more comfortable being uncomfortable and then really just start growing and doing different things. So it was wild at first. But it looks amazing.
You said it was wild at first. So how did you adjust?
Really just going outside the community, meet people around the way, meet people in the hood, just being who I am. You know what I mean? And I felt like people were drawn toward me. And then from there, I was able to really make strong connections with the friends I still have to this day. And I was able to really just not only settle in, but kind of grow into who I am today.
I know you said at that time there wasn't really a strong male figure. So who is teaching you about processing change and meeting all these people? Who's teaching you about processing? Who's introducing you to music?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
So I had an older brother. He's 5.5 years older than me. So he kind of introduced me to music. But when I was coming out of middle school, he ended up going to college. So he wasn't around the neighborhood. He wasn't around the house for real. So he introduced me to music, but then he ended up leaving. So then I feel like as far as processing what I was going through, it's really just myself. And a lot of times I didn't know how to process or how to channel certain energy. So I feel like when I got my friend group, we kind of did certain things that we thought we should be doing, even though it really wasn't leading us down the right path, right? But because they didn't have any male role models in their lives either, it was really like us kind of raising each other. But from that, we went through our own trials and tribulations. I think it actually made us grow strong together. But luckily enough, we was able to get back on track and stay focused on what we needed to do for the most part.
You're talking about your processing by yourself. Is there a song that you're listening to that is helping you process? Do you remember the first time that you heard a song and you're like, this is speaking about me?
It's a couple different sounds like that, but because, like I said, we didn't have role models, the songs I listened to that kind of led me down my path were mostly negative songs, right? Mm-hmm. Like growing up, I was really listening to, my brother introduced me to illuminate at a younger age. But the music I kind of dove into was like the T.I. and the Jeezy, right? And really, when I started listening to that music, my life, those became my focuses, right? So now I'm just trying to make money as quick as I can, really try to figure out how I can support my household at a younger age because, like I said, my brother was gone. I didn't know what to do. But listening to the music, I thought I should be doing certain things. And that's kind of how my outlook started becoming like, hey, you got to make sure that you get enough money. That way you can make sure your household is cool. So I feel like my focus changed and and kind of some of the things I was doing start changing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you seem like you're focusing, changing. Now people say I graduated from school, now I'm in the dope game.
Right? Yeah, right.
And it's quick money, right?
Yeah.
Quick money comes with real problems.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't really see that part of it. They think about like the jewels, the cars, the flashiness, maybe the girls, but they're not thinking about like the problems that come with it and the reality.
Yeah.
You talk, especially when you're engaging people, about the reality. What was your reality once that became your lifestyle?
Like you said earlier, my reality was really just knowing the bad that came with the good, because the music was going to tell you the good that can happen. How it's nice to have money, how it's nice to be able to buy things. They never tell you what can happen when the police are knocking at your door or when they're looking for you, right? Like, yeah, you may be outside with your friends and it might be 5, 10 of you guys, but when they're knocking at your door asking for you alone, it's a different outcome, right? And just knowing how to process that, knowing what to do in those situations, I felt like not having a role model and not knowing what to do, I kind of learned on the fly. But because of what I went through, I feel like now I have a bigger connection and role in my neighborhood, right? So now the influence I have is different. The impact I'm having is different. So I think that because of what I went through, now I'm able to help lead people to do the right thing. Because there was a point in time when people, although I was doing the wrong thing, people still gravitate toward me. Then I start kind of influencing other people to do the wrong thing, which is why I'm blessed now to really be focused on what I should be doing, what I can do.
So you kind of hear the song. Go ahead.
Okay.
You hear the song, your life kind of like changes a little bit. You're in the streets. What is your mom and your family saying to you at this time? Because you're a little cake at the time. You know, all of a sudden you like the big man in these streets. That's a difference, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something that they really expected from you. So what are your family telling you?
So really, before I ended up, I was in Charlotte. I ended up moving with my grandma for a little bit, and I ended up moving back with my mom. During this time, when I moved back with my mom, my grandma had Alzheimer's. So she ended up being sick. She ended up moving in with us. And my mom had to quit her job to take care of my grandma. So a lot of the time I come home from school, she's running a doctor's appointment, she's making sure she's okay. And she really didn't have the focus she needed to have on me at the time. Although I know she loved me, although she was there for me when I needed her, I didn't feel like I needed to be telling her what I was doing anyway. And because I knew she was focused on my grandma, my thing was like, how can I make it better for them? Right, not realizing that the things I was doing was kind of putting me in harm's way. And ultimately, like, she didn't want me to do it. But because I thought I should be doing it, I kind of just did it. Then before she knew it, it was like, all right, that's your baby. Like she understood my connection to where I was at, and she knew that I had love and support around me. So she was nervous what I was kind of doing, but she knew that I was around people who had my back regardless what I was doing. So I felt like it surprised her as well, kind of how I was maneuvering.
And so you're in this life. What kind of makes you sit back and say, you know what, this lifestyle isn't for me?
Right.
This lifestyle is not going to allow me to provide for my family. It's not going to allow me to meet my goals. My brother's in college. My mom's taking care of my grams. Like, I'm getting, it's hot in the streets, as they say. What makes you say, you know what, I got to find something different for my life?
I really didn't get that feeling until I went off to school, right? Like, I tell the younger people all the time, I didn't want to go to school. I felt like I was young, I was cool, I had motion where I was at, I had connection. I really didn't want to go to school, but I was always smart, right? Like, when I graduated, my grades was always there, but I never applied for a college. My mom ended up knowing, my uncle, who's up here, ended up knowing somebody who was a college admission officer down south and got me into school because my mom gave me paperwork. But I never really seen me going to school. But during my senior year, during spring break, I actually visited my cousin at Winston-Salem State University, and I stayed on campus the whole week. And I was like, damn, it's fun. You know what I mean? Like, we kicking it. They're going to class. I'm in their dorm room just doing the most, right? But I saw myself there. I'm like, well, I can do this. I mean, I know I'm smart to be here, and I'm having fun. But that was the first time I even thought about going to college, right? But when I went back home, it was like, all right, now you back where you're from. And college was in the back burner just because of everything that was in front of me. But she ended up helping my uncle with my college application. I ended up getting accepted in, and then that kind of what made me go to school. But I took the same things I learned as a youth to school with me. I started really being in the street when I was 14 years old. So when I graduated at 18, I didn't really see the need to go to school just because I was cool where I'm at. But I feel like I didn't learn until I ended up moving to Pittsburgh. So I feel like it was a blessing that I did end up getting caught up in some of the things I was doing, because it made me sit down and made me get a real outlook on like, all right, what's important? What should you be focusing on? And like, how can you make a difference? Because I knew I could lead people do the wrong thing. I guess my gear didn't shift until I was up here and kind of saw how a negative situation affected me. And I was like, damn, I see how it's hurting me. How can I create an opportunity for other people to become great?
And so you talk about coming to Pittsburgh. How did you find Pittsburgh? Because you're in Charlotte.
Yeah.
You notice that, like, the South's got motion, right?
Right.
You know, it's black. You have your friends. You got your family. You know, people like you in the South. You go from like Charlotte to Atlanta,
right?
Or maybe like Charlotte to Raleigh, or even Charlotte to Jackson. Very rarely are people trying to like
leaving
go
Charlotte,
to Pittsburgh.
Right.
So how did you get to Pittsburgh?
So I had been exposed to Pittsburgh from my uncle. He's a preacher up here, and he's doing well for himself. I'm so far away that everybody here focusing on what they were doing and kind of hearing about what I was doing. So everybody kind of knew already, but it wasn't in front of their faces, right? But after I ended up getting caught up down south, I ended up asking my cousin, like, yo, I gotta leave because if I don't leave, I'm literally gonna die, go to jail. I ended up getting caught up and I went to sleep. When I woke up, I had probably 50-something missed calls, but everybody had wanted something from me. And my thing was, I didn't know how to navigate that, right? Like, because now there's so many people depending on me that I didn't know what to do. But I knew that they were gonna keep calling me because they needed me to continue to do what they were trying to do, right? So I talked to my cousin, she's like, yeah, I heard what happened to you. I'm like, yeah, it's sad, but I don't know what's next for real. Like, if I stay here, I already know what's gonna happen to me because it's what's around me. She's like, well, how about you come to Pittsburgh? I'm like, well, I ain't really trying to leave because I'm too connected down here for real. She's like, no, let me talk to my dad and see what's going on. And I think it can be a fresh start for you. I was like, well, all right, ask him for me. And then she had that conversation with him and reached back out to me like, yeah, he said it was cool. When are you gonna come up here? I'm like, well, I can't come right now, but I know I need to come. So we worked on some things and I was doing what I was doing down there. Then once things cleared up, I was able to transition up here and get re-enrolled in school and really just stay focused on doing the right thing.
So you come to Pittsburgh and weather's different.
Yeah, it's snowing.
People different.
Yeah.
Community's different.
Yes.
Culture's different. But now you're also in college.
Yeah.
You're not getting that HBCU turn up party community that made you think like, oh, college is for me.
Yeah.
So like now, how are you adjusting? And like, how are you transitioning into being like, okay, I gotta stay here and make something of myself because I can't go back home.
And really, I wanted to go back home, but I knew every phone call I got from down south was something negative happening to somebody. Somebody getting killed, somebody getting locked up. And I knew that I wanted something different. I'm like, all right, my life is greater than what I'm around, but I gotta give it a chance. But when I got up here, I was commuting to college every day. So I'm driving to Slippery Rock through the snow. I'm driving from class, leaving class, driving back to Pittsburgh the next day. The highways is icy, so I'm having to travel through that and understand what the terrain was like. And I'm like, nah, I'm over this shit. I can't wake up, it's cold outside. It might snow down south maybe once or twice on Christmas, and that's it. So for me to see snow every day, it started taking a toll on me. I'm like, nah, this really ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to go back home. So I went back home for a little bit, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was like, no. So I started the semester, and I was like, no, I can't really do this because it ain't the right space for me. But since I went back home, everybody was knocking at my door. Everybody like, boy, you back? What we doing? What's next? Blase, blase. And I just seen what I could have been doing, and I seen what I know I should have been doing. They was on two different paths, right? Like I know I could do what I want to do down here and have fun and enjoy it, but I also know what that comes with. I didn't know what Pittsburgh had to offer, but I knew that I was around different type of people whose spirit was different, and they was focused on different things. So I'm like, all right, I know what I'm gonna get right here. Let me try something else and see what I can get if I do this. Because if this fails, I can always go back home. I already know what's waiting on me. I can make that happen. I can make it make sense. But I was like, nah, let me just try something else because it's not really what I want. And I came back up here the next semester and then really just stuck it through, right? And I started meeting different people. My cousin was from here, so they had friends here from high school. And a couple of them went to Slippery Rock. So they were like, nah, tap in with such and such, tap in with such and such. Now you really start being around them more. And I'm like, oh, you know what, it's really not that bad. Although it's a culture shock because where I'm from, there's only people who look like me around us and everybody else is supporting the work. Up here, I really saw it wasn't like a lot of different nationalities. It's really just kind of black and white for real. So the movements were different, the actions were different, how people treat you was a little different. But I knew I could do it. You know, man, I'm like, nah, these are small things compared to what we used to dealing with. So I'm like, man, this is cool. Let me just try to figure it out.
So you come up here, you're like back home, it's hot. My life could be in danger. You get up here, and it's seasonal affective disorder. Yeah. It's like cold all the time. So who is talking to you about like your mental health, like your mental wellness, and just making sure like your mind is right?
Really, my family, for the most part, that was up here, they kind of didn't know how I was thinking and what was going on, but they knew that I wasn't used to this. So they was like, all right, KK, we know that, you know, you're used to different things, but you just got to stick it out. Yeah, it's going to be cold, but, and they just kept talking to me and making me feel more comfortable being here. And I was like, all right. And as I started meeting people who were trying to have fun, I'm like, well, they do things differently than us, but they seem pretty cool, you know what I mean? And I feel like just them being so open with me allowed me to let my guard down and kind of be more open and willing to listen to what they had to say, just willing to be around.
So as you're navigating your journey, you're back in school, you're meeting people, you're creating a network for yourself, pretty much. At what point did you start reflecting and being like, I wish I had more active male role models in my life?
It wasn't until my cousin got killed. So my cousin Jerron Grayson was killed at the house party of Cal U. When it happened, I was taking classes at Slippery Rock to one of my friends said, hey, you want an easy A? He was like, man, listen, I know you're trying to get your grades back on point because you just transferred up here. It's a teacher, she's cool, but if you just stay focused on her class, you can pass with a passing grade, with an A for the most part. I'm like, all right, let me check it out. It was a nonprofit class, and it really was about, I never really heard of nonprofit before. I really never involved in any programs growing up, so I really didn't know what to expect. It was cool because it really like, hey, what issues do you see? What problems do you see? How can we change it? So I was taking the class, and then I got a call that my cousin got killed. So I came back to Pittsburgh, was trying to deal with that. And then at that point in time, I felt like everything logical left me. Everything I knew I should have been doing was like, it was gone. And my thing was, what should I do to where the other family feels how I feel in the moment, right? I feel like a piece was taken away from me. But when I got back to school, my teacher was like, hey, I heard about what happened. It's not okay at all. In the short time you've been at Slippery Rock, I've seen how you've been able to lead people here and just galvanize people right here. So I know you can lead people to do the wrong thing. How about in our class, we really focused on creating an organization to where you can help shape people to do the right thing. And then it hit me. I'm like, well, damn, I can make a difference. And I know I can get people to follow me. What if I got people to focus on doing the right thing? I feel like that's the moment where I was like, you know what? I can take this more serious and I can create a nonprofit to where I positively impact our community. And if somebody did choose to take a life, they would know what came with it rather than be like, well, damn, my circumstances made me do this. Like, I hear you, right? But you also got a choice. And I feel like at times as people of color, we don't really see our choices. We just see the decision that we feel like we have to make. And my thing was like, no, I want people to understand what goes with it because that's how people get caught up. That's how people go to jail and telling on people. That's how people get in situations where they don't need to be in the first place. But I feel like they have to do something rather than thinking about what they should be doing.
But how was that for you? Because you come up here because you're trying to, not necessarily escape, but trying to create a path for your life.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to escape meets you still, right? Still that death, still that violence, still that street life. So how are you processing it?
At the time, I didn't know how to. I just really wanted to crash out. But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, before I got up here, I felt like I was taking care of my whole family. I'm like, well, if I do something to somebody, who's going to take care of them? If something happened to me, who's going to take care of them? And that made me take a step back to think about doing things differently. And I feel like once I had a conversation with my teacher, she gave me a different focal point. Like, all right, you can process it one or two ways. You can use it and it can hurt you, and then you can do what you want to do, or you can use it to help you and you can do something different. And I feel like I took that route. Like, hey, all right, it happened. I'm not okay with it, right? But what's next? Am I just gonna focus on that and then harm other people because I'm hurt? Or can I help other people because I'm hurt? And I feel like that kind of was shifting my reality to focus on making a difference the right way.
And see that part right there, that ability to reflect, right? Because I think that when you're in the life and get in motion, it's always snap decisions. You got to make a snap decision. Being able to take that second, I think is really, really important. And that's one of the reasons why you started One Nation Mentoring, is to let these kids know that you can take a second.
Yeah, most
and
definitely.
And you need to have a second to process because it's so easy to crash out. You see it in the music, you see it on social media. It's so easy to do all these things and like pick up a gun or pick up some drugs, but you gotta take a second.
Yeah.
And so you found a nonprofit.
I did.
And you not only found a nonprofit just to help kids, you're bringing like other people in, other men in. What was that moment like for you when not only you get this nonprofit up and going, but you see this community that you've created both in Pittsburgh and in Charlotte supported?
I feel like it was needed. I feel like I know so many dope men, right? But there's nobody that you can call on or lean on or cry to when you need those moments. My thing was, first off, how can I help our youth be amazing? But then how can I support the people who are doing the work? Because oftentimes when we get burnt out, there's no help, right? And I know that. But I felt like if I could be the one to bring us together, I can really help us in an area we didn't even know we need help in. So now it's just really a blessing to be in the spaces that we are and really be able to tell the message and sharing the stories that we're able to share, just because I know how it is to react to something, right? I want our kids to respond to things. I want us to think about what it is, make the best decision, and then act on it, right? So our motto is think great, act great, be great. We know you can do whatever you want to do, but I want you to think about it first. Like, what's the outcomes you want to receive? And are you doing the things to get the outcome you want to receive, or are you doing things to do them? And I feel like in no split second with us thinking about it, it can transform our lives forever.
And those split seconds, and burnout is real in the nonprofit area, right? Because you're dealing with stuff, you're living with stuff, and you really don't get like a break. Your life and your work are really like merged and combined. So where do you go to to get support, to take refuge?
I go home. I feel like I'm blessed. I have created a space because like you said, I don't get to take a break off, right? Like before I came here, I got a sad story about one of my mentees who parent stabbed their other parent in self-defense, right? So my thing is like, how do I help him process that, right? But when I go home, although I still deal with those things, I get to be in my little oasis for a bit. So my thing is like, my home got to be cool, because I feel like in the social media age we live in, trauma is everywhere. And we allow shit to come to us so often that when I get home, I try to disconnect as long as I can. So I put my phone down, I sit there and relax. And now I got a 1-year-old boy who I'm blessed to be a dad to every day. So my thing is, how can I just look at him and smile? How can I refill my cup and regain my energy? Because I know when I go out to the regular world, everybody dealing with their shit. And nobody really got time to think about the next person because they're dealing with their own shit, right? But if I can process that, I think I can be a support for other people who are going through things but they don't even know how to process it.
You talk about processing. Coming from the background that you did, when was the first time you ever heard the term like mental health?
Probably when it became cool a couple years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I know people who've been affected by mental health, but we didn't call it that. Like we was like, nah, dude shot out or something's happening to him, but we didn't know the terminology around it. We didn't know why it happened. We just thought that people were just having their own episode, their own issues, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like now it's more acceptable and more accessible to get mental health support, which is amazing, right? I just wish that everybody is exposed to the opportunity and information I have, because I know we all need it, man. And as much as we think we don't, my first time having a therapist was during COVID. I ended up getting a grant from one of the nonprofit, from one of the foundation that was like, hey, Brother Kev, we know you work for the youth. We know that there are things that we don't know how they're dealing with them. Let's provide mental health therapy to you guys. And I said, all right, cool, it's amazing. And that was the first time I actually had mental health therapy myself. It was dope. But what I saw in that was, after having a conversation with my therapist, I was my therapist. And I was like, damn, we all just need somebody to talk to that we can relate to. Because I felt like he was listening to me, he gave me amazing advice, and he was helping me create other opportunities for my youth to be involved. But he needed somebody to vent to as well. And I never thought about who helps the helper, even though I'm one of the helpers, right? I was like, I know anybody coming to save me, right? That's cool, because I gotta do what I gotta do for my people. So it was just a blessing for me to be able to introduce this to their younger guys. That way they can be more prepared and better prepared to deal with whatever it is in a positive way, rather than just burning out and them crashing out themselves.
And so you get this grant, and you're like, I'm gonna try therapy myself, right? Before then, like, what had you heard about therapy, just like in general? And then, like, what was your experience?
Right.
That first session like?
My first hearing of therapy, like, nah, you get therapy, you might be crazy, you don't know how to deal with life. And when I received it, it was really the opposite. It was like, hey, my therapist was like, thank you for coming to see me. He was like, I need more people like you who knows that they're okay, but also know that there is help they can receive. And I felt like he just helped me be able to better compartmentalize different things I'm going through, and then really give me names and words to not validate, but to connect to different feelings and emotions that I was dealing with in my youth. Like, I got young people I'm working with who seen people get killed in front of them. Like, young people I'm working with who may have done things to other people, right? And when they're going through these things, they don't know what to call or what to do next. So they reach out to me like, hey, Brother Kev, I seen the guy who robbed me. What should I do? Well, you calling me, you know what to do already. You got to go home, my man. We got to figure out another way to deal with this trauma and this stress, because I can't have it eating at you, but I can't have you acting on something that you know you shouldn't be doing. But if you're calling me, you already know what I'm going to say. My thing is, how can we live the longest and have the most fun in a healthy way, right? I don't want us to just be in our rooms, not talking to people and not making the world a better place, because we all got gifts and talent. It's about how we're able to share with the world to make a difference.
And that is like really important, because I do think that a lot of times when you go through something, you're losing a family member, you're losing friends, sometimes that first thought is, I got to get my lick back, right? I gotta get you gotta spin the block and spin the block again. But people don't really realize that creates that cycle of violence. And you really have to cut that cycle off. And a lot of the work that you're doing is not only trying to break cycles, but create new traditions, new health, new wealth for these kids. How do you see yourself doing that, and why do you think it's so important that you're like in these kids' lives, right? these children's lives? I
think it's extremely important because I know what it's like not to have anybody, right? And I know what it's like to not to know where to go. And I feel like because I didn't have anybody, I was growing up with my friend and we were making adult decisions as kids. If I would have had somebody older than me like, nah, bro, that's silly, don't do that, because you don't know where you end up, it would have made me think twice about certain things. And I also know the influence I have with these kids. I can see how they look at me and how they're listening, how their backs straightened up a little bit more, and how their eyes twinkle when we're having certain conversations. So my thing is, like, not only can I be a voice of reason, but how can I allow you to see me in yourself? Because now you're thinking about the future. So often we don't think about the moment, and it's hard for us to think about what's next. But I also let them know, like, you're valid for feeling how you feel. Somebody did something to your cousin or your family, I understand that you're hurt. I've been there too, right? But if you do what you want to do, what's the best that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? But if nobody's having this conversation with you, you're going to leave it to your own judgment. And at times when you're upset, anger is leading your decision, not logic. And my thing is like, nah, let's think about it first, King. Queen, what's going on, right? And I know you're hurt. So how we want to deal with that, right? But besides that, what decisions should we make to put us in the best track for what we want out of life? Because we all can just spin it. But I agree with the old saying, an eye for an eye will do everybody blind.
You're building this nation, but you're also keeping your friends. I think a lot of times people have this idea that as you heal and grow, you gotta leave everybody behind.
Right.
But sometimes you can take people with you. And you talk about when you were little, you met your friends, y'all were making some decisions that probably weren't the best, but now y'all been able to grow together. What has that experience been like?
It's been amazing, man. To just have people that you genuinely love, and you know they love you. Yeah, as you get older, there'll be people that you meet. And I'm not on a Drake time. I believe that you can meet new friends every day and grow with people that you love and respect, right? And but to have people that you grew up with still in your corner, I think it makes you walk a little taller and makes you feel a little bit better, because you know they know what you went through. And I don't feel like everybody that's your friend needs to know what you've been through. But when you share certain experiences with certain people, nothing can take it away from you guys. And I feel like that's needed. But if I can help create some healthy cohorts of friends at a younger age, I know they can have more healthy conversation and opportunities and experiences as they get older, right? Like, who are you going to travel with? Who do you feel safe around? Who are you feel comfortable investing in business with, right? Because if you don't know, we'll get stuck in the space where I ain't investing with nobody. We gonna rather spend money at the club than spend money buying crypto, like whatever it is that you guys want to do. But I think my thing is, like, you need a support system of success, period, to be successful, right? Like, whatever you want to do, you need a network of people who you can count on, and they know they can count on you.
From having a group of people you can count on. You're in the nonprofit world. People say the nonprofit industrial complex a little bit. One of the things I don't think people really understand is how stressful being in a nonprofit space is. And while it's not going to take your life, like the streets are going to take your life, it can still get you caught up.
Most definitely.
Definitely. And so what has been your experience as running a nonprofit, being in the nonprofit space, not the work with the kids, but just like the day-to-day, the business struggle with it?
I think it's wild. I think it's low-key sad that our people traditionally do the work because we want to make a difference. Other people do the work because of tax write-off, right? But now I have employees who are dependent on me. Now I have kids who are dependent on me to do the work. I can't say, all right, I'm gonna quit tomorrow. I can't say, I don't know where the money's gonna come from. I gotta figure it out. So it puts a different level of stress on you because you gotta continue to make decisions and the opportunities you need to make for other people to benefit from what you know. But if you can't find the fun to do it, sometimes it get hard. So I think it's a different type of stress. The nonprofit world is wild because I feel like people are fighting over a small amount of dollars when really there's way more money out there than we think so, right? But because we do the work out of our heart, people want us to do it for free, which is crazy to me because there's literally funds to support the work, right? But one thing I wish I would have known is how it works. Because I feel like I would, rather than me trying to ask for $1 million to make a difference with our community, I would have just stayed entrepreneurship focused from the jump and just made $1 million and then did stuff for our community. Because then once I make $1 million, I now know how to make it to where I can continue to make $1 million to continue to support the community rather than say, hey, I need $1 million for the work that we're doing. But what about next year, right? I feel like that's kind of the catch-22.
You know, it's different games still.
It's a different game.
Well, you're doing it so well.
I appreciate
with these kids. I was literally out. I'm gonna tell you where it's out about. And I ran into one of the kids, and they were like just talking about like how you created a safe space for them. You made it fun for them. And at one point, you know, you had the sneaker ball. People were coming in. And then people will try to copycat that, right? And you're just like, this stress is a little bit different, but I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And you showed your kids by the way you walk and your actions, like when you're done dirty, you can still take a different path. Cause like, I think we forget these kids are always watching us.
Yeah.
And it's like easy to be like, but when you have to actually show and prove, that's when people are like, oh, KK was telling the truth. Brother Kev was telling the truth. Like, we really don't gotta crash out.
Right.
We can be upset. We can be feel like we're betrayed or hurt. We can keep moving. And like when you see these kids grow up, like what does that feel like?
It's a blessing, man. I be in the grocery. I could be anywhere. People like, Brother Kev, appreciate you, man. Remember we did da. And most of the time I do remember, but there's certain instances I can't remember everything. But when they share the story, I'm like, yeah, that's super cool. But for them to think that adults can be helpful, for them to look at other people for support, for them to believe in themselves based off interaction we had, I'm truly appreciative because I feel like a lot of our teachers, kids don't see them in the community. They were like, man, it's only a teacher, you don't know about our lifestyle. I see kids at the grocery store, I see kids at the gas station because I live in the hood. I live in our communities, right? And I feel like when I go on trips, when I travel, when I do different things, and I'm explaining and I'm showing to you, they're like, damn, I can do that too. You know what I mean? Like, all right, Brother Kev, how was Dubai? How was Puerto Rico? We should be traveling and having fun, but taking people that you trust with you, but also just knowing that we gotta start feeling comfortable being uncomfortable. We gotta start getting outside of our own box because one thing I learned about Pittsburgh is a lot of people don't like crossing bridges. In Charlotte, everything so far, you gotta get comfortable, hit the road, you know what I mean? But up here, it's like, I think a lot of people have what they need in their communities to where they feel like they need to go outside their community. My thing is opportunities everywhere. And I always want our kids to see different opportunities, even if you're only going to bring it back to your community, you gotta see something different. Because our neighborhood is still designed on purpose to keep us there.
So I want to go back to right before you went to college, when you got caught up. If you could go back and tell young KK something, what would it be?
Boy, don't deal with them over there. Don't deal with them over there. Because again, you'll do things out. And that's one thing I feel like I'm blessed in. I've always had the heart that I have. So I've been able to network and meet people everywhere I went. So I was going to the A when I was 13, 14, 15, just to get school closed. So I feel like I've been able to go in different spaces and connect with people and not feel threatened by certain people. But in that, you meet people and you don't know their intentions, right? So even though you're trying to help other people out, everybody don't have the heart that you have. I wish I would just share the information. Not that I wish anything would have changed, because if it would have, I definitely wouldn't be here right now. I just wish I would have been prepared for what was to come.
So you went from having motion in the street.
I still got motion now, but the good way.
I'm about to say
You're
that.
right.
You just took my transition.
I apologize.
Okay. But I think it's like really, really important because like a lot of times people feel like if they started from a certain place, they can't change.
That's
like the streets is all I know. I made a mistake. I got caught up. Like this is all I can ever be, right? And I think when looking at your story, yes, you went to college, but you used your story to make a difference. And so I do think that you are an embodiment of a second, third, fourth, fifth chance, just because you never strayed from your path. And so for anyone who's in that situation, is like, I can't get out. Like, I made a mistake. I took a not saying you did. I'll be very clear. But I made a mistake. There's nothing out here for me now. What would you tell them?
There's always tomorrow. As long as we have air in our body and we have a mind to think for ourselves, there's always things we can do to change our situation. I know how hard it is to stop hustling. I know how hard it is to stop being around certain people and leaving them alone. I wish that they had programs like Alcohol Anonymous for people in the streets, right? Because it's a real thing. There's no support for people trying to figure out what's next. It's people who got hundreds of thousands of dollars, no idea about what to do besides continue to do what they're doing. That's the sad part to me, to see somebody that has risked their lives for certain things, right? And not know what's next besides doing what they're doing now. That's sad because we all have so much promise, but if we think we can only do these things, that'll be the truth. One of my mentors told me when I started doing the work, if you believe this, you can, and believe this, you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you will, and you can. If you think you can't, you're right too, because you won't do it. And I feel like that speaks value to me even today because it's a mindset. And I think that a lot of people haven't been taught how to think, haven't been taught how to process, so we just go with the flow. No, we need to be making intentional decisions about what we want out of life and working towards getting it.
And so my last question is going to be, what is next for you? What are you looking forward to?
So January the 15th, we're having Empowering Tomorrow Leader Summit at Duquesne University. We want to be able to not only pour into those kids who want to be poured into, but provide opportunity and really empower our kids to be leaders of tomorrow. I've seen so many youth graduate school but not be prepared for life, right? I see so many youth graduate and then go to college and never come back. My thing is, because I know so many amazing adults here, how can we create a network? How can we create a cohort? How can we create a family of success to where whatever somebody wants, it's a one call away, right? In Charlotte, there's 1 million people. It's people who you don't even know you don't know. In Pittsburgh, if I don't know somebody, I can hit you up and say, hey, you know such and such. You might say, I don't know them, but somebody that you know knows them, right? I feel like it's so close-knit like that I now have to be more intentional about connecting the dots for our people, because if I don't, who will? I think so often people are waiting on somebody else to do it, but really we have to do it ourselves. And that's one thing I'm proud about, that I feel like I'm around 2 amazing men, Lloyd Cheatham and Sam Morant, who I do the work with, and they continue to support me to let me know what we can do as a group. So the Empowerment Summit is what's next, to bring the sneaker ball back, to have an amazing time, to continue to support our youth and our communities. And I'm just excited about what's next. I'm excited about tomorrow.
Well, I'm excited about tomorrow too, KK. Thank you so very much. And that has been this edition of Brunch with a Black Man.